Joining us. We're going to get started in just about 1 to 2 minutes, so stay tuned. Hey Rashmi, how's the weather there now?
Yes, it's pretty hot here. It's around maybe 37 degrees right now, and that too in the night.
Let me translate that. 37. So, wow. So here in the US, obviously we use Fahrenheit. That would be almost 100 degrees. That's 98 degrees.
Oh,
So
that must be boiling then.
It's pretty hot. Do you have air conditioning in your house?
Yes, we do have.
Good.
So
Are there people who don't have air conditioning? I guess it's if you can't afford air conditioning, obviously you don't, but is it pretty common to have it?
yes, it is pretty common here because
Got it.
the weather conditions are too rash here.
Yeah. Great. Well, I have top of the hour, so maybe we can kind of do a slow start and just do an intro as people are joining. But good morning, good afternoon, and even good evening for some people. Thanks for joining Hive Pro on our LinkedIn Live. We've been doing these for a couple of months, and we always have a pretty large audience globally. We've been talking recently about Iranian state threat actors. We have a bunch of threat reports out there. And recently we introduced a global vulnerability intelligence report. So at some point during this session, or even now, if you want to scan the QR code, you can download that report. Just this morning, I saw a bunch of banks downloading it, global organizations, and this is free threat intelligence, and it's extremely valuable. It's not sales collateral or material or anything like that. It's threat intelligence from our labs team, and of which you're a member. So I just want to welcome you, Rashmi. So I'm joined today by Rashmi Singh, and this is going to be, I think, a cool topic. We're only going to take about 15 minutes on the live, and she actually discovered a vulnerability, one that I think is pretty impactful. And I'll let her talk about it, but it actually impacts almost 100,000 companies globally who may be using the Spring control. So first of all, welcome. Maybe just do a quick intro. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and let's start with that. Give us a little bit about your background and how did you get into threat research and hunting for bad actors?
So thanks, Dan. I feel really great to be here. So it's been 6 years when I've joined Hive Pro, and today I'm working as a senior security analyst. I work on the offensive side of the security research, and I try finding out vulnerabilities, building proof of concept, and the attack exploits. So recently, one of my research was being credited in the one of the vendor advisories, that is Spring Cloud. And I like spending most of the time between the red and the blue team. So it's like playing around between them.
Got it. That's great. And just a little bit more about Hive Force Labs. So the team on the labs publishes threat research. All of that threat research is available for free. It's on our website. It can be in the form of a long form report, but we also just have short briefings. And we've actually made some major discoveries, and this is going to be one of them that we're diving into today. And we don't just publish research, we also publish and have inside of the platform the ability for you to look for evidence of it, test it, understand in your prioritization how vulnerable you may be to that exploit. So there's a lot more than just published threat research. There's actual information you can use to detect and defend yourself against it. So let's maybe just dig into this vulnerability. How did you discover this? And is this the first time you've discovered something that's been published in NIST and has been this big, or has this happened before in your career?
So, first of all, yes, this is the first time when I have discovered this vulnerability. And before that, just to set expectations, I promise I won't be spending my evening today in finding new bug just to ruin people's weekend. It's just Monday to Friday thing. So what happened? I was actually working on one of the vulnerability that was similar to this. So I just got to know that okay, this fix which have been displayed that it's already been fixed, but I found out that no, this is actually not properly fixed. It can be another flaw. So I just quickly contacted my manager, Ankit, whom you might have met in the previous live sessions. So we worked together on
Yep.
it, and we just found that yes, this can be one of the vulnerability. Then we validated it on the Spring Cloud GitHub repositories, and then we got to know that yes, it can be a vulnerability. Now, next, what happened? So basically, if I talk about this vulnerability, the entire thing. Let me quickly share first my screen. Just
Yeah,
one.
please do.
Is it visible now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So, what happened actually? So, next screen, 1 minute. Oh, sorry to take your time.
It's okay.
Okay, so I hope my screen is visible now.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, okay. So, the previous vulnerability which I was working on was a path traversal. Before that, just to give a simple example, have you ever kept a spare key just for your convenience outside the building under your mat?
I do. That's how I get into my house all the time.
Okay, okay. So it's like the same. So people, for their convenience, they keep the keys under the mat outside, and they don't think like it can happen that your house can be open and your information or your important things can be robbed. So similarly, what happened? So in this also, what happened? The previous vulnerability, it did not get fixed properly. So do you see this profile? Like basically, that endpoint have four parameters. Okay, so one of the parameter got fixed in the previous vulnerability, but the rest three were wide open. So I just tried sending a crafted URL to that particular endpoint. And you know what happened? I was able to get through it and I was able to fetch the entire credential information, whatever it was saved in my safe environment. So I did not test on the actual Spring Cloud server, but it was a safe, controlled environment. Okay, so what happened after it went through it? Bingo! I thought of why not to check if this was done before or not, and one history is there. So since last 7 years, similar kind of vulnerability, that is directory traversal, have been happening. The people who were reporting, or maybe the researcher who have been reporting it, the researcher team, they reported it privately to the team. And what the Spring Cloud team does, they will fix only that particular parameter which have been reported and they will leave the other things open. Same flaw. So this flaw was on one of the parameter that was on resource controller. Okay, I checked it further. We validated it by a proper channel, and this all was done through a private channel. And you know what? The Spring Cloud team, they have acknowledged it within 14 hours itself, and that's a great thing. If any company is going ahead and they're acknowledging your work, that's really great, because it's very difficult for some of the companies. Like one of my colleague have faced this, that that person reported it to that company and they did not acknowledge it. So there is always a proper way of disclosing things. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's great that we have that open line of communication with them. And there are vulnerabilities that have been hanging out there for months, quarters, even years. And a lot of these sometimes take way too long to fix and to patch. So it's great that they were able to fix it in that amount of time. And we had some open collaboration, which I think is really important in this industry. But I think your example also talks about why it's important to test a patch, right? Test and
Right.
validate what you patch. What else can you tell us about it?
Okay, so currently my work is that I create BAS exploits for our Hive Pro. Okay, so
Hmm.
there is a separate breach and attack simulation module for us. So every day we check around 5 to 6 vulnerabilities that can be added in our repository. So similarly, I was testing this also, and I have tried spotting more part to it. Like I noticed that the same module have so many tested untested parameters. Those were left open. So it's very strange that for 7 years, same vulnerability is reoccurring and why it is not getting fixed. So it's become very important to responsibly disclose these things privately. Otherwise, the attackers can ruin your like entire infrastructure.
Let me interrupt you with a quick question. So
Go
you
through
just said BAS,
a
right?
proper policy. Yes,
Let me just interrupt with a quick
breach and
question.
attack simulation.
Sorry, I talked over you. So you mentioned BAS, which is breach and attack simulation. And so there's a question that came in from the audience. Could you talk a little bit more about why breach and attack simulation is important, right? Because I think without it, you're just doing a patch, you're moving on, and you're assuming the best, right? And I think in your example, not having that, would have potentially given you a false sense of security. So what type of information do you provide when you're doing breach and attack simulation, and how could it be done, for instance, inside of the Hive Pro platform?
Okay, so that's question. So actually, what we do, there are around like so many vulnerabilities. So like overwhelming vulnerabilities come each day. We cannot fix all the vulnerabilities at one time. We need to prioritize each of them. Through BAS, we do the same. So suppose we first filter out which is the latest one and which is like a 0 day or is it a CISA KV. So we decide accordingly which is mostly exploited or exploited in the wild. We try to focus on them first and try to add them in our BAS module. We perform the same testing the way it will actually behave once your system is being affected by that. Okay, then once the simulation is done, we can tell that okay, you are safe or not. So it's like a complete process being made where we will inform you that okay, whether your system or your EDR is blocking or not that particular attack. So through
Got it.
that
So
way, yeah,
it's
sorry, yeah.
re- it's sorry. So it's really more than just helping you prioritize. It's context sensitive information on what does this mean for me? What does this mean for me given my infrastructure? And what steps do I need to take? How do I prioritize? Is that accurate?
Yes.
So it's sort of like gives you proof versus guesstimation, as somebody in our audience just suggested.
So it's like a proof which we are showcasing that yes, we have the attacks available that will safeguard you for a long run.
Got it. Okay. So I think BAS is really important for any threat program, but so is prioritization, right? Every year, the number of vulnerabilities goes up, and there's over 40,000 new vulnerabilities this year alone. So I think
Yes.
these are really important capabilities for any program. Before we move on, and I wanted to talk a little bit about disclosure and disclosure policies with our remaining time. Is there anything you didn't cover here, things that you'd want to share?
Okay. So I would like to talk about this vulnerability. So
Mm-hmm.
this vulnerability was like, suppose you are trying to access something, you don't need any authentication, you don't need any credentials to get into it. So it will let the entire infrastructure to collapse if someone access your machine. So based on the authorities, like suppose the CEO laptop would be the most vulnerable, right, to a particular vulnerability. So that we need to fix it first. So in this vulnerability, what happened? I was able, or you can call as the attacker can be able to get through in without any credentials, without any authentication, and can fetch the sensitive information, stored passwords, credentials, and most important, the confidential information. rest. So
Got it.
yes, yeah.
Sorry, there's a little delay. I didn't mean to talk over you. No, I think that the timeline is incredible, and congratulations to you for finding that. I think there's thousands and thousands of security researchers out there, and I think you should feel really good about finding this. And I think it's definitely something you should put on your resume. And hopefully, this is going to be helpful to the almost 100,000 companies that are out there and using the Spring control and didn't realize this level of vulnerability. So congrats again.
Thank you.
Let me ask you a little bit about vulnerability disclosure. People use the term VDP, vulnerability disclosure policy. And if somebody finds a security issue, like how do they approach it? What's the best practice? And even in the age of AI today, where more and more is being found, more and more, unfortunately, is being attacked. How should people think about that? And maybe touch on why are researchers frustrated by these policies?
Yeah, so actually, it happens with a lot of organization when they don't acknowledge your work. So thankfully, it did not happen with me, but yes, it does happen. So if we take the example of maybe Entropic or ZDI, that is zero disclosure. So sorry, zero day initiative. So what happens? They have kept a timeline of 90 days. If before that it is being reported, and you need to report it privately, you should not make you should make sure that you are reporting it privately, otherwise it can be exploited and it can affect. So there are edge cases when the exploitation is done actively in the wild, then that should be done or escalated immediately, and we need to notify the vendor on an urgent basis. Okay. Next is if after reporting also you do not get any acknowledgement from the vendor, you need to report it privately to maybe the CTO or the CERT team, so that there is a disclosure, like the reporting can be done and impactness is reduced. Okay. Also, if there is no patches available in those all scenarios, they can only publish the mitigations. They cannot publish any POC because again it can be exploited.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like every security citizen needs to follow this process just as to secure everyone.
Yeah, I think this is increasingly important. I know just from reading the research that back in 2018, defenders had 63 days, typically on average, from a CVE publication to active exploitation. Today, not only is it happening, within hours or minutes, sometimes it's happening even before it's, a 0 day, as they say. So disclosure is really important. Prioritization is increasingly important, because if you're not prioritizing, it's this reactive cycle where you have thousands of vulnerabilities and you don't really need to, you don't know what you need to focus on. So a threat informed approach is definitely the right way to go, where it's more of a laser beam focus on vulnerabilities that are actively exploited that affect your infrastructure. So I'd love to keep discussing. I have lots of questions. We had some questions from the audience. I tried to kind of weave them into questions that I asked you. I guess maybe I could wrap with a quick question for you, Rashmi. And again, congrats for finding this. This is big news. If anybody in the audience is running the software, where can they get the research, and what advice would you give them?
Okay, so if they are trying, first of all, in the AI era where the vulnerabilities can be within minutes, we need to be first validate everything. We cannot hurriedly go ahead and report it because validation is a must. Once it's validated, you can go ahead to the particular website of that particular organization, and mostly they are available on the GitHub itself. They will ask you to report on their GitHub, and from there they will take it further. Like they will be doing the pull request and all, and they will be further contacting you via email. and make sure that you are not doing this publicly. Everything should need to be in private.
Excellent. Well, Hive Force Labs is not just a research team. We also are here if you have any advice. If anybody has any questions or wants to know how to better approach this, we love just having conversations where we can help and advise you. So feel free to reach out to us. Rashmi, thanks for being a badass, as we like to say here in the US, and for finding this. I think it's an amazing accomplishment, and you and Hive Force Labs have done a lot of amazing research this year on Iranian state-sponsored threat actors, on attacks impacting critical infrastructure and impacting the world. And the amount of research that comes out from your team is incredible. And I'm always blown away by literally the thousands of companies that consume the threat research on a regular basis. So keep doing what you're doing. Proud of you. And thanks everybody for joining us. And if you haven't grabbed it yet, it's about to go away. Get that QR code, download the research, and let us know if you have any questions. But have a good evening, Rashmi. Thanks for joining. And to our
Thank
audience,
you.
thanks again for being here with us today.
Thanks, everyone.